Sex in nature is pretty straightforward. It's efficient, it's instinctual, it serves a very clear biological function. And though there are some animals that have sex for reasons other than reproduction, it's still pretty unburdened. Take bonobos, for example. They are our close evolutionary cousin, and they use sex as a social lubricant, like quite literally. It's how they diffuse tension, how they, quote unquote, apologize after a fight or share foods. Dolphins are another animal. They use sex for social bonding. Chimps, they use it for hierarchy and play, because sex is about touch and pleasure and social grease for some species. But as far as evolutionary biology can tell us, these animals do not load sex up. Dolphins aren't lying awake talking about, what did that hookup mean? Like bonobos aren't like texting like their friend the next morning, do you think they pulled away because they're scared of commitment or they're just not that into me? In the wild, sex isn't as emotionally messy. And then there's us. Hey, lovers. This is Sex in Real Life. Honest conversations about sex and relationships beyond 40. I'm your host, Stacey Herrera. We have taken the biological mechanism that is sex, which is clearly designed for gene propagation and basic social cohesion. And we have layered it with longing and attachment and identity, and for some of us, ownership and containment. We have literally conflated sex and intimacy until these two sometimes mixed things are now impossible to untangle. But why do we do that? Like, why do we do that? Why are we humans like this? Why do some of us turn sex into an entire library of emotional meaning while other people can simply just enjoy it? For some people, it's as simple as sharing a meal with a friend. I thought it would be good for us to talk about this because it's something that plagues us, right? Something that plagues us. I really just want to like really kind of unspool the tension between, our inherent biology and our need to make meaning, and why our struggles with sex and intimacy might actually be a symptom of how young we are as a species, which you've heard me say before. So, to really dig into this, I want to start with a distinction, and that's the difference between understanding and assigning meaning. Like lots of animals understand their world, like large mammals emote in ways that are deeply deep, right? And recognizable to us. Like elephants mourn their dead, and dogs feel anxiety and joy, and primates groom each other to release endorphins and to steady their nervous systems. Physical touch is vital. It's a universal language across the animal kingdom. So when we talk about humans being unique, 'cause we love to make ourselves special. But when we talk about humans being unique, it's not to suggest that other animals don't feel or experience physical and emotional intimacy, because they do. But the difference is meaning. We humans are compelled. Actually, I think we might be wired to make things mean something. I don't think it's a compulsion. I think that it's just in there. You know, we experience an event and then we saran wrap a narrative around it. So we don't just feel it physically. Like then we want to, like, you feel a spark with somebody and you want to build a whole future. Like that's what happens. That's what happens. That's what happens when humans touch. Sometimes we don't even have to touch. So there is an immediate biological event, right? So skin contact, heart rate elevation, neurochemicals flooding the brain. And almost instantaneously, our conscious mind steps in and starts writing poetry in prose. What does this touch say about who I am? What does it say about who they are? Is this safe? Is this forever? Is this a mistake? We can't help it. We can't help it. We're storytellers by nature. But when you take this act, this physical act that's millions of years old, like sex is a millions of years old. But when you take that and you hand it to a brain that's addicted to storytelling, it gets complicated fast. And evolutionary research shows that humans evolved pair bonding mechanisms and romantic love for practical reasons. I mean, human babies are born extraordinarily helpless and they stay helpless for years. So to keep two adults together long enough to raise a child that can take a decade and a half to mature, evolution through this massive cocktail of hormones at us, oxytocin, dopamine, vasopressin, like it kind of glues us together, right? So biologically, the instinct to attach makes total sense. But the emotional weight that we sprinkle on top, that's where the friction lives. And it's not just like biology pushing us here, it's culture. So we've settled into societies and sex stopped being about a biological drive or like this bonding mechanism. And then it got tied to land and inheritance and lineage and social standing. And we invented concepts like fidelity and purity and betrayal. And we started looking at sex through the lens of ownership and containment. Then we started asking sex to carry the weight of our security. And we told ourselves, if you give this part of yourself to me, it means that I am chosen. It means that I am safe. It means that you belong to me and I belong to you. And then we tried to contain this wild, unpredictable nature of physical desire into these little neat boxes. And look, for some people, for many people, these boxes provide safety and a deep experience of security and flourishing, because partnership by and large is a very, very profound human achievement. We should be proud of ourselves. It's a big one. We did our big one on that, right? But when we demand that sex act as the ultimate proof of commitment or self worth, we are asking a physical act to bear the weight of something that's too heavy. We're asking it to be a contract and a therapy session and a soul connection and a security blanket all at once. And when it fails to hold or bear the brunt of all of that, we feel broken or we think the other person is irreparably damaged. Now, here's where the human story gets really fascinating because everybody doesn't deal in all of this weight. There's a large swath of people who can separate sex from all that narrative. For those people, casual sex or non casual, unattached sex isn't a diluted version of intimacy. It's just this own thing, it's a distinct activity. They can view sex the same way they view hanging out or watching a movie or playing a PlayStation game or Scrabble. It can be tender, it can be fun, it can be joyful. It can also be purely physical without all of this emotional stuff. And for those people, it doesn't cheapen the experience for them because they weren't asking to build a relationship. They weren't asking for some place to store their soul. They were just having an experience, with another consenting adult. And then there's the rest of us. We be out here catching feelings and making meaning everywhere. We have sex and suddenly our minds are tracking breathing patterns and managing vulnerability and building expectations about when we gonna see the other person again, or pulling ourselves back because we're trying to self-preserve. We attach and we long and we try to make everything mean something, and we try to create safety where there is none. And if you are in this group, as I am in this group. It's easy to look at those other people and think, what's wrong with them? How do they do that? Why are they so detached? And if you are in the first group, it's easy to look at the second group, the group I'm in. Like, why does everything have to be such a big deal? Why can't we just enjoy the moment? Neither group is wrong. We're just navigating the emotional spectrum, because everything is a spectrum, because one of the greatest stories we told ourselves is a binary, right? Humans have created the story of binary, and we've attached it to every single thing, which probably explains the massive divides that exist in so many areas, right? So why haven't we figured this shit out yet? Why haven't we figured this shit out yet? I don't know. Maybe, and maybe I'm just postulating here, but maybe it's just because we are a very, very young species. I mean, I've talked about this before, probably ad nauseum, but you're going to hear it again, so listen up. In the long view of this whole Earth situation, Homo sapiens are practically newborns. We are still tiny babies. And we think we got it all mapped out because we built skyscrapers and created the internet and have dissected the human genome. Like, right? Like we got our shit together. But no, emotionally, neurologically, we are still in the thick of our development. Inside our heads, we are running a constant this or that, right? And on one end, we have the amygdala and the limbic system. It's ancient and it's fast and it's instinct driven. It's there to react to raw touch and threat and basic reward. But on the other end, we've got the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that dreams and plans and worries about mortality and craves existential meaning. And we spend so much time reacting from these parts of the brain while trying to process feelings with our high level emotional selves. And we're also evolving in real time. So we're caught right in the middle of a grand, I don't know, is it an experiment? Maybe. Maybe it's a grand evolutionary experiment trying to balance millions of years of instinct with a newly minted capacity for complex, existential, sometimes insanely crazy love. And we haven't quite mastered that yet. Of course, of course. I don't know. Maybe the takeaway here isn't that we need to fix how we experience sex. Maybe the goal isn't to force sex and intimacy to be the exact same thing for everyone, or to force them apart if that's naturally how they merge for you. Maybe it's not about stripping away the meaning if you're someone who feels it deeply. Maybe it's just about giving ourselves and each other a little bit more grace. The next time sex feels messy and heavy and confusing and maybe strangely complicated, remember, it's not necessarily because you're doing it wrong. It's just that you are a member of a very young, very intense species that is still trying to turn physical touch into poetry in motion, literally, right? And honestly, it's a pretty wild thing to be a human in this time and space, seemingly capable of so much wisdom while actively being in infancy in terms of evolution. I mean, it's wild and amazing and incredible. If this episode made you go, or laugh out loud, share it with your peeps, tweet it, post it, stack it, text it. And if you enjoy this podcast, take a moment to leave a 5-star review or rating. It really does help other people to find these conversations, and I would greatly appreciate it. Next week, we are going to be chatting it up about the correlation between sexual satisfaction and relational satisfaction, and whether how much sex you're having or not having really matters. I think that you are probably going to want to tune in. Until then, take good care. Ciao.